I'm starting off with something a little boring. As a kid, seeing men court or confess their love to a woman made me feel like that's truly how it goes. And it's so romantic. Imagining myself in that situation makes some parts of me wish that one day I will experience that. But I've lived long enough to know that's not really how it goes. I don't want to point fingers, but someone's gotta take the blame. Now, experiencing teenage love is something that I didn't know a lot of people think is a wonderful thing. Lots of people have experienced it, lots of people haven't, and most likely never will because we don't stay teenagers forever. And hearing other people talk about their own experiences definitely made me feel like I'm missing out on something fucking grand. But I guess I did experience it, just differently. When I was in high school, I had a guy who never confessed, but I knew had a crush on me. How did I know? Because it was fucking obvious. We're calling him Vince. The moment I knew my assumption was real was when his friend, who was also a good friend of mine, asked me something. He goes, "What would you do if a 15-year-old confessed to you?" What's more ridiculous than that question is Vince was quite literally standing behind our friend with his back turned, pretending he wasn't paying attention. I said I would immediately say no. I mean, thanks for keeping it a secret, but at the same time, what the hell was that? Before that, I think this was during Valentine's Day. Our class had to go to the computer lab, and when we got back, there was a single rose on my table. I was one of the people who came in first, so I took the rose and put it on the table behind me. I didn't want to take it because I didn't know whose it was at first, and even if I did, I'd still refuse. I'm sorry. The girl sitting behind me finally came in and was confused. She was like, "Whose flower is this?" And I said, "I don't know." Now, these 4 people I'm about to talk about happened in the last 2 years of my high school, which means this is where being in relationships is completely normal. It's nothing like having crushes in middle school, where you get teased by your friends when your crush is around, or getting giddy from sitting next to them, or some shit like that. Starting with this guy we're calling Kyle. Kyle confessed to me through chat at 3 a.m. in the morning a month before the school year starts. We knew each other from the first year, and this happened when the second year was about to start. During that first year, it was clear that Kyle had a crush on someone almost everyone knew. I just got up to that info since I was friends with her friends. When I saw his message, I was thinking he was just drunk because this guy always shares that he drinks every weekend. Not about to school on someone for their coping mechanisms, but I don't want that, sorry. This guy was the least relevant in my life, yet he was the most uncomfortable of all. Our PE subject for that year will no longer be about sports and games. It's gonna be about dancing. I hate dancing. With that, our teacher decided to split us into groups, and she will decide which genre of dance we're going to perform. My group ended up getting ballroom dance, the most intimate out of all these goddamn dances. And the worst part is Kyle is in the same group as me. You think this timing is so fucking funny? That was already uncomfortable, and I wasn't the only one who felt that way. Since Girly and I were on the same level, we ended up agreeing that we're gonna be partners for the dance. But after many days of practice, the group started to complain about the partnerships. Specifically, Kyle. We still had about a week or so of practice, and Kyle thought we should change partners because according to him, people are complaining about the weird partnerships since there are 3 girls and 3 boys in the group. Why not just be a girl and a boy partner? Which totally makes sense, but what people? I've never heard the others complain about our dance since they have their own performance to worry about. I think that's just you complaining. With his brilliant idea, he decided to write down numbers on pieces of paper. Have everyone pick a paper, and whoever gets the same number will be partners. You fucking lucky bitch. Is God by your side or what? Like, one of the most annoying things about that is we get more days of practice due to multiple suspension of classes. It may sound convenient, but that would mean I have to hold this motherfucker's hand longer. The beginning already included us having to hold hands, and since we were just practicing, oftentimes we don't hold hands. There were a few times where he would insist on it to practice the steps easier, and I wouldn't complain because I didn't want to make it seem such a big deal because others will think I'm being a fucking bitch that's being fussy. And sometimes he wouldn't even ask, he would just hold my hand. There were quite a few times where I would feel his hand brush against mine, and I would think he wanna hold hands, but then he wouldn't, so I look fucking stupid extending my hand further to hold his. Ew! God! Not to mention, I'm not really comfortable with touching people or vice versa. Even just a simple hand on shoulder or something, please take it away. I was complaining about this to some friends, and one of them thought that he planned that out, and it clicked to me. When I was picking a number from his hand, he was squeezing it to force my fingers to grab the first paper I feel. I remember thinking, why is this bitch making this harder for me when I already can't see the number? You fucking bitch. Not only he was making me uncomfortable, he was also very annoying. Every time I talk to other guys in my class, he pops up a lot and then he starts talking to them. I'm not done talking to these people and you decided to interrupt the conversation to try to divert my attention to you. Get the fuck out of my face. I almost forgot to mention, when we finally memorized all the steps, obviously all we had to do was keep practicing. As a non-dancer, I would watch my own feet to focus or else I would forget about everything. After finishing the song, Kyle decided to speak and suggested to everyone that maybe we should hold eye contact with our partner while dancing. I was ready to punch this motherfucker, but Girlie said that she couldn't do that without laughing at her partner's face. You and your male fantasies. Going back to the girl who we all thought he had a crush on, I got to talk to her and our friends about him, and she mentioned that he had already confessed to her last year. Wow, cross out the first girl and move to the next. How long is that list? Anyway, moving on to this guy named Gabby. In the first days of classes, Gabby was kind of alone for the most part, especially when school's over. One of my friends, Mari, decided to ask him to come walk with us because she thinks he's lonely, and Gabby obviously accepted the offer. After weeks of hanging out with him, we kind of started noticing something weird about Gabby. He was getting so comfortable around Mari that it looks so much like he's really into her. I talked to my other friends about it and they completely agreed, so we eventually talked to Mari about it. Mari starts freaking out and telling us how she's heavily not into him like that at all. Why? Because Gabby's fucking weird. Many times a lot of my classmates have told me how they always see Gabby and his girlfriend from last year make out everywhere they can. I've never seen them do it, thankfully, but I'm telling you, almost all of my classmates have seen it. They're also always together, like actually inseparable. They even got scolded by a few teachers for PDA, and they're also friends with a few people that most of us don't really like because they are for weeks, it's been weird and uncomfortable for Mari, and we always tease her about it. She was in denial and was trying to divert it to me, saying I was actually the one who he likes, but we all thought that's kinda stupid. Mari, he's all yours. I insist. Mari still talks to Gabby even though he makes her uncomfortable, but that's because she's trying to get into his head. She wanted Gabby to confess that he had a crush on me, and he really did. So Mary slapped that screenshot on my face, finally free from the discomfort because it went to me. I think he waited for a few days before he finally confessed to me through chat. I told myself I reply before I sleep so I wouldn't have to think about what's next, and I ended up staying very late. I avoided whatever he said. I proceeded to talk about how we all thought he had a crush on Mari the whole time and all the things that have happened. I mentioned how he treated Mari so differently, as if there's something going on. He said that's just how he is. Honestly, I was expecting this dude to at least give me a long message, you know, like a proper confession, but no, it's just this. What do you want me to do with that? Ask you out on a date? I had to be the one to write a long message just to reject this bitch because I felt bad. I actually told him I still want to be friends and I hope that he wouldn't feel too awkward or shy to talk to me, and then he totally never did. You know what else I noticed about him? He became like less kind. The way he talks to other people and the behavior change was pretty noticeable. You didn't get what you wanted, huh? My friend Chris mentioned that he was not at all a good boyfriend to his previous girlfriend and continues to talk shit about him. Some stuff he said was just some things he thought was weird about him, but I personally didn't think much of it. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Chris, because you're the next person I'm gonna talk about. I've been friends with Chris for a year and we were actually pretty close. I had a lot of fun talking to him since we genuinely had a connection, but he had to ruin it. I recently just stopped talking to every friend I've made except for Chris at that time. I became a loner and there was nobody I could talk to except him. I remember I had to go somewhere to buy something for a project and he went with me. When we got home, he messaged me saying, I forgot to tell you something earlier, I'll just tell you tomorrow if I remember. Okay. The next day came, didn't really talk to me about that. Once again, back at home, messaged me again. I was more mad than anything. I only had one friend at this school and you decided to make it something else. You think this shit's cute that I have no one to talk to except you? I was in a really bad place and a friend was all I needed. You could have done that like a week before the graduation. You just had to do it a few days before Valentine's Day. Why do I not like him so much? I've witnessed this motherfucker's last relationship as well. It's not like I saw some signs during that relationship, but it just weirded me out how it looked like he felt the need to keep being in a relationship to have something in his life. Not to mention he got like multiple red flags I am not willing to fix. I just realized they all confess to me through chat. The bar's not even that high yet some still can't reach it. Well, I've already lost expectations from men many years ago. I just didn't know that it's getting worse and worse. From different stories and gossip, it all ends the same. But there was a time where someone was special to me. I became friends with Clyde in the first year and I'd say we became pretty close easily. He was a friend of a friend and we eventually became a circle. Clyde didn't get my attention from the start, but the more I talked to him, the more I'm starting to feel something. It really did feel like, for the first time in forever, someone treated me like I'm something. We talked about a lot of different things, and we've had plenty of deep conversations. And it was nice conversing with someone that feels like I'm someone they truly care for. He kept telling me how comfy it is to talk to me, which I can say the same thing to him. I'm usually the listener in conversations, and I always prefer it that way, but whenever we talk, we take turns who speaks and who listens. And listening is something that he does very well. He called me pretty a lot, casually. Never fell for it because I don't take compliments. Save it for someone else who actually deserves it. I remember whenever someone catches my attention, it usually lasts a week or two and then I lose interest. But this guy lasted for months. I could never tell my other friends because I don't trust them. Not only that, we're in a circle. I did talk to them about him, but I made sure to lie so that they won't find out. And I'm glad I never told them. The more we talk, the more I'm just... Aside from having a lot of fun being with him, this motherfucker becomes the funniest person I know. I feel like I also become the funniest, and we would just keep going, making ourselves laugh. Since we were a circle, we obviously had a group chat, but for some reason there were a lot of times where he would message me directly rather than talk to me in the group chat. Dude, I felt special. Every time I see a notification from him, I can feel my heart do something I'm unfamiliar with. I'm so uncomfortable, but it's like good. He also walked me home a lot because he said he wanted to. One of the things I remember as well is when we went to a store and I took a lot of time debating with myself whether I should get a new journal even though I haven't finished my current one. I'm an extremely indecisive person, but he didn't mind. He was patient and he was okay standing there next to me waiting for me to make up my mind. We were there for like an hour. Obviously, it wasn't all rainbows and sparkles. It was just rainbows because he revealed to me that he has a crush on a guy from a different class. He said they've been talking and all I could do was pretend to be interested so I would hear more. Before I continue, I did clarify his sexuality. He said that he was bi, but mostly interested in guys. I was holding on to that tiny percentage of women. Anyway, I was already convinced this dude's gay as fuck, but he did say he has never been with a woman before and he would like to try. Thanks for getting my hopes up, Clyde. Another thing that was getting my hopes up, he would ask me constantly what I like in a guy. You have other friends you can ask that. How come I'm the only one you're asking, you silly? Continuing with this guy he had a crush on. I'm an atheist, but goddamn, he got me praying that they'll never get together. God's funny as fuck, so it actually happened. I got sad, but it was okay because I knew they wouldn't last long. It's not out of bitterness, it's just the facts. I talked to a friend about it and I said I'm pretty sure they would only last about 3 months. They actually lasted a month and a few days. How did I know? We're best friends! He told me everything. Despite us being very close, he was a pretty distant person due to his mental issues. He wouldn't go to class a lot and he had no particular reason, but I understood anyway. But having him around made me feel really happy. Oh my god, expressing feelings is so hard. Unfortunately, I stopped talking to him much when the school year was ending in a few months. He became much more distant and he didn't even want to walk home with us anymore. I accepted it. I was just letting him do whatever he wanted, but it got to the point where he completely just stopped going to school. At that point, I couldn't care less. Obviously, he's not perfect. There were a lot of times where I disagreed on a lot of things he said and got into arguments. He lost some points there, but he always apologized and changed. But I'm not a teacher or a guardian for me to keep schooling him on stuff like that. Like, that shit's tiring, you know. I cut off ties with him and he didn't mind. When I was crushing on him heavy, it felt really weird. Some parts of me were annoyed because it's been going on for too long, but the feelings were still there. Some parts of me were like, I am so in love, can we please be together? And the other, I think I'm being fucking dramatic. I was willing to go low and let myself become a back burner, be in a situationship, an experimental girlfriend just willing to make up his mind if he still likes women. The standards and self-respect I had, I was willing to throw away for a bit just for him. Disgusting. But even so, I'd say he was the closest person to ever made me feel what love can be. Many months go by, he actually reached out to me. He wanted to talk about what happened between us and why we just stopped talking. I told him everything that came to my mind and apologized, and he did as well. He said that he was really bothered and I kept popping up in his mind like a murdered ghost longing for justice. That is exactly what he said. That was kind of nice to hear that he didn't completely erase me from his life, because he told me I didn't want to leave a bad memory with this person, and that's why he decided to talk to me again. We are best of friends now, and I think whatever we have right now is so much better than what I was imagining. It also felt very warm that he thinks I'm worth reaching out to for the sake of friendship. I've never really told him about any of these feelings, long gone now by the way, but I think I'll just drop it and maybe tell him someday as a huge lore drop. So what have I learned from all of that? Honestly, nothing much. I already knew I should stay away from these kinds of Ugh. It was flattering to know there were people who liked me, but at the same time, they could be such a waste of my time, also ruining my fucking life. Except for you, Clyde, obviously. I lost some friends, and I'm glad someone who's decent has been added to my world in which you will not get out of. But knowing you, you would love it here, and you would be willing to stay for as long as you can.